So let's talk one of the most important chapters in this video. It's chapter number 5. It's housing. Housing is critical. Moving to Spain, we've covered the different kind of visas, the cost of moving over. We've talked about healthcare, schools, and we've covered a lot of terrain already. Now let's talk about housing. Obviously, you're gonna have two different options. You can either rent or you can buy. So let's talk rentals. Rentals in Spain, first of all, pricing depends, as we said earlier, of where you are in Spain. And this is gonna be a driving factor when it comes to choosing where you're gonna relocate with your family or yourself. Because, rents can be expensive, from 1,200 for the most basic, all the way up to, thousands of euros for prime locations. But I wanna talk about the kind of options you have. In Spain, when you rent a property, there's one kind of rental contract that's called un contrato de arrendamiento de larga temporada. This is essentially a rental contract. And although, contrary to what you read online, it needs to be a 12-month contract. A few years ago, landlords would do tricky contracts where you'd sign an 11-month contract and they try for it to fall under the category of a short stay and not long-term. Today in Spain, you need to be signing a 12-month contract. And by the latest Spanish regulations and Spanish laws have recently been changed, these rental period can be renewed up to 5 years. So if you rent a property in Spain, you sign on year 1, just for you to know, that renews up to year 5. Can the price just go up at the will and mercy of the landlord? No. Spanish landlords are limited by how they can increase rental prices, and it needs to be very well determined at the beginning of the contract. Having said that, it's also very common in Spain to find adverts where you need to be paying exorbitant amount of deposits and upfront payments. Spanish regulations make it very clear. You're not obliged to pay 12 months upfront, 12 months rent upfront, and you do not have to pay an agency commission. So if someone's asking you for a commission, this is contrary to Spanish regulation. It's the landlord that should be paying the agency commission. However, in practice, the agencies get away with marking it as a different sort of service and do not advertise it as a rental commission. They advertise it as a service. Just watch out for that. Now, this takes us on to buying. Now, what should you do? Should you buy or should you rent? Well, the reality is, if you know what you want to buy and you know exactly the areas you want to live in and you have a very clear picture of everything you want, my recommendation to clients is buy. There's no harm in renting until you find the right thing. With Spain, as of the moment of recording this video in 2025, year on year, prices are increasing quite substantially, in some areas 10%. So, not buying a property, now and buying it next year can, result in an increase on average of 8 to 10%, depends where you are in Spain. Just keep that in mind. But if you're not sure about the locations and you're not sure about the areas, our recommendation is always to rent a place and really scout the areas before you make that big commitment. How do you find a property? We've done so many videos on our High Homes YouTube channel where we talk about the ins and outs on how to buy a property, legal advice, expert talks. You can check all our playlists on the High Homes YouTube channel. But let me give you the main outlines of what you guys need to be looking for. The first thing is, in Spain, when you buy a property, you buy it freehold. Yes, that's right. There is no other way in Spain than buying a property than freehold. You need to make sure when you're buying a property that everything is crystal clear from the moment you're viewing the property all the way throughout. But let's say you find that perfect property. Property prices in Spain vary from 4,000 up to 8,000 euro per square meter, depending on the location you're buying in. Now, if you've been around and you found that perfect property, my advice to you guys is always to use a good, number one, agent to help you, run through the market, navigate the market. And number 2, a very good lawyer to help you make sure that the property you're buying is fully legal and has no sort of issues around it. So you're in the clear when you sign title deed. We did a video on the top mistakes buyers make when they buy property, which we'll link here, which actually outlines the top mistakes rookies make when they come to the market and they don't know how Spain works. So check it out. So here are the top 3 tips you guys need to know about before you make a move and buy a property in Spain. Number 1 is know your numbers, and number 2 is timeline. Now, let me tell you what I mean by know your numbers. In Spain, buying property comes with purchase costs and purchase taxes. Know them all depending on where you are in Spain. If you're in Madrid, it's different to Andalusia. You have transfer tax, VAT, lawyer fees, registry fees, notary fees. It can range from 9 all the way to 13%. So make sure that when you're scouting for properties, you take that into account with your budget. If your budget's 500,000 euros all in, it might be that you need to search for properties around the 450,000 euro mark, not 500,000 euro mark. That's a really important one. Number two is timeline. Understand your timeline of purchase and exit, because it could be that you're buying a property now that's your first property in Spain. If that's the case, your angle on the investment should be a bit different. Are you buying a property to live in it for the next 10 years? Are you buying a property for the next 20 years? Timeline is key to understand and to also not lose money. What I mean by this is that we just talked about purchase costs, but there's also a lot of selling costs when selling in Spain. You've got, lawyer fees, taxes, capital gains, agency fees. Buying a property at 500,000 euros 1 year and selling it for 500,000 euros in year 2 actually results in losing money. If you buy a property at 500,000 euros today and you sell it next year for 550,000 euros, how crazy does this sound? But yes, you can lose up to 60 to 100,000 euros. We did a whole video on that, so if you really want to dive deep into the subject, check it, and we'll leave it right here, link to this video. So that's really the outlay of what it's like to buy property in Spain. We've covered rentals, we've covered buying, we've covered sort of the housing aspect of it. Something we need to talk about when it comes to housing is both in the rental market and in the sales market, there is a real fine supply. There's not enough property to satisfy the demand in both rental markets, but also in the purchase market. And that's something that keeps on showing because property prices are only increasing year on year. This is happening on the rental side with places like Barcelona and Madrid at sky-high rental prices, and exactly the same is happening in coastal areas like Malaga. When it comes to properties, sale prices, the same thing is happening. Prices are on the rise. And if you ask yourself, why is this happening? Just remember, we have a supply crisis. There's not enough property to satisfy the demand. Guys, so that's it. We hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to know if you watched until the end of the video, so comment below. We'd love to hear your feedback on what we've discussed. If there's anything that you think we might have missed. Now, for you guys which are watching this video, which are about to relocate or relocating, congratulations. It's one of the most amazing things that you're about to do. Check out our playlist on the High Homes YouTube channel where we have so many good, valuable videos that cover so much of the important questions that you guys ask yourself when moving to Spain. We try to make our channel a useful resource or a useful sort of source of tools for people like yourself. So check out our playlist on Expat Talks, Costa Insights, and much more. Having said that, if you want to stay posted with content just like this regarding property in Spain, property news, Costa del Sol, and everything regarding real estate in Spain, subscribe to the High Homes YouTube channel and like this video so we know we're doing a great job. And like always, press the bell button if you want to be notified every time a video like this comes out. And remember guys, in real estate, knowledge is your best investment. So wherever you are, if it's morning, day, or the evening, anywhere in the world, from High Homes, hasta luego.